Hello again. In the previous tutorial, we've seen the main steps required to build the interface and to implement the code behind the interface, the events. In this tutorial, we will look into several of the more advanced features related to the Visual Designer. A few words about layout files. The output of the Visual Designer is a layout file. This is a binary file. This file includes all the information about the layout. It is important to understand that this layout file is not tied to any specific container, a form, activity, or page, depending on the platform. We can use the same layout file in different projects, in different places, and we can also load the same layout file multiple times. This is useful, for example, if you are working with custom list view, where you can create a single layout file and load it once for each item in the list. Let's see an example made of multiple layout files. The main layout will be made of a text field at the top, anchored to both sides, and the more interesting control is the tab pane. We want the tab pane to fill the whole available space, so it will also be anchored to all sides. As you can see over here, it grows together with the window. Now we will create a layout file for each of the tabs. We will create, let's say, 2 layouts. Also set the anchors from here. And we will create another one, a very similar layout, this time with a different color. The main layout, by the way, is named 1. And tab pane load layout. The nice thing about this layout is that it adapts automatically. Note that we can load the same layout any number of times. The Visual Designer includes several important features that helps us, the developers, to build flexible layouts. With a flexible layout, I mean a layout that looks good in all reasonable screen sizes. We will start with anchors. I have a control here, a list view. By default, it is anchored to the top and to the left. This means that the distance between the left border and the top border will always be the values set here. no matter the size of the container. In many cases, we want to anchor the view to other sites. Maybe this button should always be at a set distance from the bottom of the screen. So we set its vertical anchor to bottom. You can see that the label, the property label, changed, and it now measures the distance from the bottom, and you can see that it moves like this. We can also anchor views to the right. And we can also anchor views both to the right and to the bottom. And now it will be in this corner. There are cases where we want to let a view fill the available space. List view. Maybe we want to, let's say that you have a text field over here. And we want the list view to fill all the available space. In this case, we want the list view to be anchored to both sides. This means that the distance between the left border and this distance between the right border will always stay the same. We will do it both vertically and horizontally. As you can see over here. Let's say that we want to have two list views like this. And we want them to fill the whole form. So we set the anchors to both. You can see the small white dots. However, it doesn't work. It works horizontally in this case, but vertically it cannot work because the list views are not anchored to the center of the screen. They are anchored to both sides, so this distance remains the same, and also this distance remains the same. So a gap is created between the views. Anchors are not the solution for every problem. Before we start with the designer script, you should remember that for any given vertical or horizontal line, there should never be more than a single view anchored to both sides. If there is one, then it is a bug. Now to the designer script feature. There is a built-in script engine inside the Visual Designer, then eventually it gets compiled and added to your program that allows you to write simple code to set the layout. This is the place for the script. Note that when you click on it, the layout becomes read-only. You can see this message. To exit script mode, you click on the properties box. Second point, the anchors are set before the script is executed. This means that anything you will do in the script will override the anchors effects. Let's start with some simple examples. We can run it with F5 and it moved. Now I'm exiting script mode and it's in the previous place. Very nice. Now back to the previous challenge, which was to set the layout of these two list views. I will use the set top and bottom method. the top, the first parameter is the top position, and we want it to be a few pixels under the bottom of text field 1, plus 5 deep. We haven't yet talked about the deep units, and they are only relevant for B4A, but it is a good practice to always add deep units when you specify number of pixels. Otherwise, you will get the wrong results in B4A. And the bottom of list view 1 will be the center of the screen. We can use percentage here, the percentage unit, 50% Y. In this context, it means 50% of the page or form or panel or pane that loads the layout. The second text field. The top of list view 2 is the bottom of list view 1 plus a small gap, and the bottom is 100% Y minus 2 deep. As you can see, the list views correctly fill the whole screen. Note that it is a bit jumpy in script mode, the WYSIWYG designer, but it should look good when we run the program. Let's try it. Delete. And we have two lists that fill the whole vertical space. Okay, back to the Visual Designer. Let's add a button, and we want to put it in the middle of the screen. We cannot do it with anchors. We set the horizontal center to 50% X and vertical center to 50% Y. And you can see that it is centered. The usage of percentage X and percentage Y is relevant when the view's parent is the main container. However, let's add a pane. A pane in B4J is the same as panel in B4A and B4I. The pane will be anchored to all sides. And we will make the button a child of the pane. And we want the button to be in the middle of the pane. Currently, it is not really in the middle, so the horizontal center should be relative to the panel, and it should be pane width divided by 2 and pane height divided by 2. And now it is exactly in the middle. Again, it's a bit jumpy. You need to let it settle in script mode. It will be smooth when you run your program. Let's add a few buttons to and put them inside the pane. You can see that they are currently here, anchored to the bottom. I haven't said it before, but anchors are relative to the parent. So if the buttons are anchored to the bottom of the pane, they will move together with the pane. We want the buttons to be of the same size and to fill the available horizontal size. Again, this cannot be done with anchors. We will use variables here. As you can see, there are 4 gaps. We will start with calculating the width of the buttons. I'm sorry, we'll start with defining the gap like this. We've created 2 variables, the gap and the width. Note that we don't need to set the variables type in the script. We will set the left position and the width of each of the 3 buttons. Button 3 left is button 2 right plus gap. We can already test it, and the width is right plus gap. And it looks good. Note that we can change the abstract designer size and see how the views will be resized. It's a good time to run our program. There are warnings about the 2 list views. They were not initialized, and the reason that they were not initialized is that we removed them from the layout. We need to delete them. And this is our layout, and it looks okay. We can use conditions in the designer script, and we will use it with the activity size keyword. Activity size means the activity size in B4A measured in inches. In B4J it is the form size. Let's say that if the form size is smaller than 8 inches, we will hide button 1. And you can see that it disappears. Let's test it in our real program. You can, for example, hide a complete pane with its layout, or move it, or resize it. Back to the designer. The condition feature is a good alternative to the variance feature. The layout file is made of one or more variants. In each of these variants, there is a complete definition of all the view's sizes and positions. Think about a mobile app. You can have one variant for portrait orientation and another variant for landscape orientation. Let's see an example. Let's add another variant. A smaller variant. And now we have two variants listed here. We can set the smaller variant like this. Let's run our program. And at some point it jumped. It doesn't look very good because we hadn't set the anchors properly of the smaller variant. Text field should be anchored to the bottom in this case. Now it will look better. So the variance feature is very powerful, especially in the mobile platforms, and it was introduced before the anchors and designer script feature were added. You should use it with care, and I recommend you to start with a single variant and only add another variant if you're sure that there is no simple way to implement the layout you want. The main problem with variants is that they are difficult to maintain. If you have 5 variants, then for any change that you make, you will need to do it in all the 5 variants. And if you add a view, you must set its position, anchors, and size in all 5 variants. In most cases, you can get better results and more maintainable results by using anchors and the designer script. We are more or less done for this tutorial. A small tip: don't create very large layouts. Prefer to split your layouts into multiple files and load them at runtime. This will give you more flexibility and it will make it easier to handle different screen sizes.